Easy screen, an easy way to make an unstretched screen for printing on round pottery. Supplies needed: the screen itself, a piece of glass or plexiglass, a piece of cardboard covered with black felt or similar black material, 4 clips, a plastic or metal screen larger than your silk screen, framed would be excellent, a light, tight container large enough to fit the cardboard and glass sandwich with clips attached. Facilities needed: a room with low light to set up your screen, a room with low light to wash out your screen, a sink or other area with a sprayer, a sink or container to soak the screen. It needs to be larger than the silk screen, and an area outside where you can set the screen to expose on a sunny day. This is the basic kit from Easy Screen. If you don't have any of the supplies needed, it would be worth purchasing the whole kit. To start, your glass or plexiglass needs to be very clean. Any smudges or dirt on the glass will be interruptions in your design, so clean it well. Once the glass is clean, you're ready to start setup. You'll notice the light has changed here. I'm now working in a low light environment. The artwork that you are going to be exposing on your screen should be printed on a transparency. I'm using an inkjet print, so I have 2 transparencies that I sandwich together because I find that the inkjet prints, the ink is not quite opaque enough to block the light, which means I have to very carefully align the 2 transparencies. If you use a laser printer, laser toner is more opaque, and you could just use 1 transparency. Once you've got your artwork face down on the glass, you're ready to get your screen out. This is how it comes packaged. This is where the directions were in the package, and then the screens themselves come in a light, tight bag. Make sure you keep them in there until you're ready to start putting the screen on top of your artwork. If you leave them even in low light for very long, it can start to harden the emulsion on the screen. You'll notice there's a couple of little pieces of screen in there. That's for doing tests to make sure that your light setup is going to work well for you. I had several screens there I needed to separate. Once I got them separated, you need to peel the clear plastic off of your screen and place it shiny side down on top of your image. That shiny side is the emulsion on the screen. I have to place mine very carefully so that I don't misalign my transparencies. If you have 1 transparency, you don't need to be quite as careful. Once you've got those on there, you need to cover them with the backer board. I am using a piece of black craft foam and then covering it with a piece of cardboard that I cut to fit the glass I had perfectly. It probably would have been easier if I had glued the craft foam to the cardboard so I didn't have so many layers to put down. Ideally, your glass would be a bit wider than your image so that when you apply these clips to hold it all together, you don't have to worry about them overlapping your image. You want to get everything really tightly together to hold the image tightly to the screen. You can see here that my clip overlapped the image a little bit. It can't do that or you'll have a hole in your design when you expose it. Once you've got it lined up to your satisfaction, cover it back up again. Again, getting as little light exposure as you can. It looks a lot brighter in this space than it is. Make sure you're working under only incandescent light and as low a light as you can get. My camera made it look brighter than it was. Once you get everything packed away, making sure that you're not going to accidentally expose any remaining screens that you might have, you are ready to get set up to expose the screen outside. And to do that, you need to cover it up. So here I have a freezer bag that is insulated and silver on the outside, so I know light's not going to pass through it. And it was large enough to fit the entire screen with the clips attached. A cardboard box would also work well if you can keep the flaps really tightly closed. Then you take it outside and you're ready to expose the screen. So uncover it and put it perpendicular to the sunlight. You're going to expose your screen for 1 minute. You'll want to set a timer for yourself. And it needs to be bright sunlight. This was done in February, but it's in Savannah, Georgia, which we get intense sunlight year-round. The exposure was perfect. I've never had to do anything other than just 1 minute. But if you live someplace with less intense sunlight, I would definitely use some of those test strips that come with your screen to make sure that your light situation will work well for you. What's happening here is that the ink on your transparency is blocking the sunlight from hitting the screen. Every place that sunlight is hitting, the emulsion that's on that screen is hardening. Where it's being blocked, it doesn't get hardened and can be washed out. You can see there, I just realized that my screen was flopping away from the glass a little bit, which isn't ideal. It turned out not to be a big deal. The design still came out fairly well, but I probably should have had some thicker cardboard. Once your minute is up, you need to get the screen covered back up again to take back inside. If you're off by a few seconds, it doesn't seem to matter that much. That's why it's called an easy screen. Back inside, still working in low light, still no fluorescent light. You need to soak the screen in cold water. I'm using my bathroom sink, which happened to be large enough to easily fit the screen without it folding over. You don't want the screen to fold over at this stage because it's going to get soft and a little bit sticky. You could also do this in a plastic tub. Wherever you're doing it, make sure it's clean. Put that screen right side up in the cold water and soak it for at least 15 minutes. Once it's soaked, you can see the areas where the design was are all kind of soft and bubbly and ready to wash out. You're going to wash them out with cold water. You need to support the screen with a backing material. Here I'm using one of those plastic mesh screens that you can use for embroidery. That's what comes with the Easy Screen kit. You could also use a window screen to do this. I kind of wish I had used a window screen because, as you can see, the plastic mesh is a little bit floppy and that framed screen would have been really handy. You do want some pressure with the water that you're using, which is why I'm using my shower head here. You could also do this with a sink sprayer. However, my kitchen sink sprayer has a fluorescent light over it, and you still want to be working in low incandescent light at this point because you don't want any of the unhardened emulsion to start to harden before it's all washed out. This will take some time. It is safest to wash the screen from the back, the non-shiny side, but you can flip it over to wash if things are not coming out the way you would like. You can see where the emulsion is washed out, it looks white. and you want it to be white, not light blue. The finer your details, the longer it's going to take to wash out. If things are just being really stubborn, you can also very gently scrub with a soft brush. This is one of those extra soft toothbrushes, and I'm being very careful. Even with this, I did end up scrubbing away some emulsion that I would rather not have. So ideally, skip that bit. Once you're satisfied, rinse it off and dry it off with some paper towels, and then set it back out in full sun to dry, but also to harden. So you want to leave it out in the sun for a full hour to really harden up that emulsion. Once the emulsion is all dry and nice and hard, it's ready to print. And you can print with underglazes or glazes or even enamels.